My name is Rabbi Eliyahu Goldstein. I was born in Jerusalem in 1953, the son of a devout Orthodox family with roots in Eastern Europe. My father taught Torah in a yeshiva near the Old City, and I followed in his footsteps, devoting my life to studying the Talmud, guiding congregants, and upholding the traditions of our people. I had no reason to question what I'd always believed to be the truth. At 71 years old, I was considered a scholar among my peers, a man of deep conviction and spiritual authority. I led prayers, taught classes, counseled families through grief and celebration. My world was ordered, sacred, and built on centuries of Jewish law. I had never once considered Jesus to be anything more than a figure misunderstood by other faiths, a misguided teacher, perhaps, but certainly not the Messiah. On March 5th, I suffered a massive heart attack while delivering a lecture on the writings of Maimonides. One moment I was discussing the nature of the soul, and the next I felt an intense crushing in my chest. I collapsed mid-sentence. The room erupted into chaos, students yelling, someone calling emergency services, others rushing to help. But I no longer felt the pain. In fact, I felt nothing at all. I was suddenly hovering just above my body, watching the scene unfold like a silent observer. There I was, lifeless on the floor, people around me desperately trying to revive me. Panic should have overtaken me, but it didn't. Instead, I felt peace. A gentle warmth surrounded me, unlike anything I had experienced. A voice, calm, firm, yet filled with love, said, "Come." Then the world around me changed. I was no longer in the synagogue. I found myself walking through what looked like a tunnel, though it wasn't made of stone or light. It felt like movement through time, through understanding. I saw moments from my life flash by, not just the great accomplishments but the small ones too. Comforting a mourner, giving bread to a beggar, weeping in private after hearing a child had died. And then came something unexpected. At the end of the tunnel was a brilliant light. But it didn't blind me, it welcomed me. The light itself radiated what I could only describe as perfect love. And standing within that light was a figure I instantly recognized but didn't want to accept. It was Jesus. Not the caricature I had dismissed for decades. Not the face from Western paintings. But the true Messiah, undeniably holy, undeniably filled with authority and mercy. "Eliyahu," he said, and hearing my name in his voice shook the foundation of everything I had believed. "You are here because I love you. You have questions. And I will answer." In that moment I knew, whatever came next would change everything. The rabbi's objections. I stood frozen in that realm of light, staring at the figure before me, Jesus of Nazareth. Every fiber of my being wanted to resist what I was seeing. How could this be? How could the man I had spent my life rejecting stand before me in such glory? "You cannot be the Messiah," I said, my voice trembling, not from fear, but from the tension between my beliefs and what I was experiencing. "You were crucified. You were cursed. The Torah says, 'Cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree.'" Jesus looked at me, not with anger, not with pride, but with compassion deeper than oceans. "Eliyahu," he said softly, "you know the scriptures, but you have not seen their fulfillment. I became the curse so you might be free from it. My death was not the end, it was the atonement." I shook my head, clinging to everything I had known. "Mashiach does not die. He brings peace. You brought division. You caused my people to suffer." Again, he answered with such calm it dismantled my defenses. "I came first to bring peace between man and God. I bore the suffering so Israel, and all nations, could be reconciled to the Father. The suffering you speak of, yes, it happened in my name, but not by my will. Those who truly know me, follow me in love." My soul trembled. It was as if centuries of theological walls were cracking all at once. I remembered the stories I had been told, how Christians had persecuted Jews throughout history, claiming it was in Jesus' name. I had used that pain as armor, justifying my rejection of him. But now I stood face to face with the very one I had been warned against. And he wasn't condemning me. He wasn't calling me cursed. He was inviting me. "Why now?" I whispered, barely able to speak. "Why show yourself to me after all these years?" He stepped closer. "Because you sought the truth, even when it was hidden behind tradition. Because you loved God with all your heart, even when your understanding was incomplete. I honor your devotion, but now I show you the fullness." The light around him pulsed with life, and suddenly scenes appeared around us, visions from Scripture that I had studied my whole life. Isaiah 53. Psalm 22. Daniel 9. I saw each one fulfilled in him. I saw the Lamb who was slain, the suffering servant, the pierced one. I saw not just prophecy, I saw the fulfillment of the covenant. And in that moment, my objections faded. Not because I lost my Jewish identity, but because I finally saw the Jewish Messiah. My knees gave way, and I fell to the ground. "Adonai, what do I do now?" Jesus knelt beside me, lifted my chin, and looked into my eyes. "Follow me." That was the moment my soul awakened. A glimpse into eternity. As I knelt before him, time seemed to collapse. The realm around us shifted, like a veil lifting, revealing layers of reality I had never known existed. My heart, still aching from the shock, began to sense that something deeper was unfolding. I wasn't just being shown the truth, I was being invited to walk through it. Jesus extended his hand and said, "Come, Eliyahu. Let me show you what you've never been allowed to see." Without hesitation, I took his hand, and instantly, the environment changed. We moved, not in the way bodies move through space, but as if thought and spirit traveled faster than light. Suddenly, I was standing on what felt like a mountain, but not made of stone. This place pulsed with divine energy. All around me were multitudes, clothed in radiant garments, singing praises in languages I somehow understood. Every voice harmonized with the others, echoing perfect love. "This," Jesus said, "is a glimpse of the kingdom prepared from the foundation of the world." I looked around in awe. There were people of every color, every culture, men, women, even children, all united in worship. I saw faces that looked familiar, people I had met briefly in life who had quietly carried his light, even if I hadn't noticed at the time. One woman had been a Holocaust survivor who never renounced her Jewish heritage, but had placed her faith in Yeshua in secret. Now she stood in full joy, praising the Messiah with tears of glory running down her face. Tears welled up in my eyes. How could I have missed this? Why didn't I know? Jesus turned to me. Because your heart longed for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but the veil of tradition and trauma clouded your view. But I never stopped knocking on the door of your heart. Even in your resistance, I remained close. We moved again, and suddenly I was in a place that resembled a courtroom, not one of judgment, but of revelation. Scrolls were opened, and scenes from my life played before us. Not just the actions, but the thoughts, intentions, and hidden moments. I saw every prayer I had prayed, every question I asked in private. I saw when I defended God's word, even when it cost me friendships. I saw the nights I wept in my study, begging God to reveal himself. You were seeking me, even when you didn't know my name, Jesus said. Then he showed me another scroll, one sealed with light. This, he said, is the Lamb's book of life. The seal opened, and there was my name. Elijah ben Shlomo, he read aloud. I knew you before you were formed. And though you did not know me fully in life, your heart remained soft toward truth. And now you know the truth, and the truth has set you free. I wept. Not out of regret, but out of overwhelming joy. Eternity wasn't something I feared anymore, it was something I now longed for. The painful revelation. As the joy of seeing my name in the Lamb's book of life washed over me, I felt an overwhelming peace. But Jesus turned to me with a somber look in his eyes. Eliyahu, he said gently, there is more I must show you. Not all of it will bring joy. But it is necessary. The atmosphere shifted. The radiant glow dimmed, not with darkness, but with a sobering clarity. Jesus touched my shoulder, and suddenly we stood at what felt like the edge of eternity. Below us stretched a vast, bleak expanse. It wasn't hell as I had imagined it from religious texts, no flames or cartoonish devils. It was worse. It was a place utterly devoid of God's presence. The souls there were not screaming in theatrical agony. They were weeping in despair, crushed by the weight of truth realized too late. They weren't being punished. They were consumed by the knowledge of the love they had rejected. It was a sorrow deeper than pain, a spiritual torment born from separation. I saw rabbis there. I saw scholars. I saw men and women who had once stood proudly in their religion, some even revered in synagogues. I recognized a few. One had taught me Talmud as a child. Another had served as a mentor. I trembled. Why are they here? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Jesus looked into the abyss, his face full of sorrow. Because they knew the Scriptures, but not the one to whom the Scriptures point. They built their lives around tradition, but hardened their hearts to me. I called, I revealed, I reached, but they refused. They trusted in the law but ignored the fulfillment of it. Tears burned in my eyes. But they were sincere. He nodded. Sincerity is not the same as surrender. Many were sincere, but they clung to identity, culture, and pride more than to truth. They feared rejection more than me. They defended theology, but never invited me into their hearts. Then I saw something that shook me to my core. A man, a famous rabbi from Jerusalem I had once idolized, was kneeling in regret, whispering the name, Yeshua, over and over. Not as a curse, but as a plea. I turned away, my soul aching. Jesus said, "It was never my desire for any of them to perish. I wept over Jerusalem, I died for them too. But love requires choice. And they chose their own path." I fell to my knees, sobbing. The weight of eternity, of decisions made in life, suddenly became real. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because when you return," Jesus said, "you must speak the truth boldly. Many still have time. You will be my voice to those who remain blind." "But they won't listen to me," I replied. "They'll think I'm mad." "They thought the same of my disciples," he said. "But the truth doesn't depend on acceptance, it only requires a witness." The vision faded. I knew my calling had just begun. Sent back with a mission. The visions faded, and I once again stood in the presence of Jesus. The weight of everything I had just seen lingered heavily in my spirit. My mind raced, overwhelmed by sorrow, awe, and a renewed sense of purpose. I was still kneeling, my face to the ground, when he gently lifted me to my feet. "Eliyahu," Jesus said, his eyes full of compassion and authority. "You must return. Your time here is not yet complete." I hesitated. Return? To Earth? The very thought of going back to that broken world seemed unbearable after experiencing such glory, such peace. He nodded. "You have a testimony that will shake many. Hearts that are hardened will soften. Your story will open the eyes of those who are blind to me, even among your own people. But I don't know how to begin," I admitted. "How do I convince them? They'll call me a traitor. A madman. I'll lose everything, my community, my reputation." "You will gain me," he replied. That one sentence echoed through the air, more powerful than any argument. I realized then that nothing I had on earth could compare to knowing him. Not my rabbinical status. Not respect. Not even family. Everything else paled in comparison. Jesus reached out and placed his hand on my chest. The moment his hand touched me, I felt a surge of power, love, and peace flood through me. It was as if he rewrote the very core of who I was. I was still me, but reborn. Alive in a way I never knew was possible. "I will give you the words," he promised. "When you speak, I will speak through you. And though some will reject you, others will awaken. The harvest is ready. The light around us intensified. It grew so bright that I had to close my eyes. I felt myself being pulled backward, away from the warmth, the music, the throne, and most of all, from him. I heard his voice one last time before everything went black. Testify, Eliyahu. Tell them what you've seen. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. With a gasp I awoke. Cold air filled my lungs, and a flurry of voices surrounded me. Paramedics. My wife sobbing. A defibrillator lying nearby. The crash cart blinking. I had been clinically dead for over 20 minutes. But now I was alive, very much alive, with a fire in my soul that couldn't be extinguished. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry and weak. I managed to whisper one word. Yeshua. Everyone froze. My wife leaned in closer. What did you say? Tears streamed from my eyes. Yeshua is the Messiah. Gasps filled the room. Confusion. Shock. But inside me, there was no fear. Only truth. I had died as a rabbi, proud of my knowledge and traditions. But I had returned as a disciple of Christ, reborn by grace, sent back with a mission from the King of Kings. The backlash begins. Word spread quickly that something strange had happened to Rabbi Eliyahu. Those who had been at the hospital spoke in hushed tones about how he had died and come back. But what shocked them more was what he said upon waking. My declaration, Yeshua is the Messiah, became the lightning strike that ignited a firestorm. The very next morning, I was visited by 3 respected rabbis from our community. They had heard the rumors, and their expressions were a mix of concern, suspicion, and sorrow. Eliyahu, one of them began. You've experienced a trauma. Your mind has been through much. This confusion is understandable. It's not confusion, I replied calmly. I met him. I stood before Jesus. He is the Messiah, and the scriptures point to him. Their eyes widened. One of them stood up, visibly angry. This is blasphemy. You, of all people, should know better. The Talmud warns us about deceivers like him. My heart ached. I had once said the same thing. I saw him, I said again, voice trembling with emotion. I saw the wounds in his hands. I saw the glory surrounding him. The truth is undeniable. One of the older rabbis leaned in and whispered, Do you realize what you're doing? You'll be excommunicated. Your lectures will be cancelled. Your name will be wiped from the yeshiva's records. Your family, they will suffer. But I had already counted the cost. It's a price I'm willing to pay, I answered. That week, I lost everything I had worked for my entire life. My rabbinical title was revoked. My sermons were denounced. My name was shamed across the Jewish press. Friends stopped answering my calls. Colleagues unfollowed me. Invitations disappeared. But as my reputation diminished in the eyes of man, I found something far more precious, peace. A peace that surpassed all understanding. Jesus had not only saved me from eternal death, he had freed me from the fear of man. My wife, Rivka, struggled deeply with my experience. She loved me, but she couldn't understand what I had become. One night, after putting the children to bed, she asked, Are you really willing to throw away everything for this Yeshua? I took her hands in mine and said softly, I didn't throw anything away. I found everything I was missing. I've never felt more whole. More alive. She looked away, tears in her eyes. I just don't know how to follow you into this. I nodded. Then don't follow me. Follow him. Ask God to show you the truth. He did it for me, he can do it for you. And so, the journey of loss began. But with every door the world slammed shut, heaven opened one wider. I began writing my story, telling it on small podcasts, churches, and even YouTube. Many called me crazy. But a few, a precious few, began to listen. And those few would soon become many. Seeds of revival. I thought I had lost everything. But in losing my old life, I found my true purpose. After my experience, I couldn't remain silent. The memory of standing before Jesus, Yeshua, burned so deeply within me, it felt like fire in my bones. I began sharing my testimony wherever I could. At first, it was just online, on small Christian YouTube channels, podcasts, and forums. I was cautious but honest. Then something unexpected happened. A message arrived from a young man in Tel Aviv. He was Orthodox, but questioning. He had seen my video, and something stirred within him. "I don't know what this is," he wrote. "But when you said his name, I felt something warm in my chest. Can we talk?" We did. And it wasn't long before he, too, gave his life to Yeshua. 1 turned into 5. 5 into 20. Then 50. Small house groups began forming across Israel, quiet, cautious, hidden in back rooms or rooftops. Jewish men and women, young and old, sitting in circles, reading Isaiah 53 and Psalm 22 with trembling hands and tear-filled eyes. And I wept. Because it was happening. Revival. Quiet, underground, but real. Many of these people were terrified of losing their jobs, their families, their communities. And yet they said the same thing again and again. "He came to me in a dream. I heard his voice call my name. I saw his face." It was as if the veil was being torn from their eyes, just like it had been from mine. I began meeting with a group of Messianic believers who had once been Orthodox Jews like myself. Some were Holocaust survivors who had seen unimaginable evil, and yet now, they radiated joy. Others had been scholars, atheists, or skeptics, until Yeshua stepped into their stories. Together, we prayed for Israel, for the religious leaders, for the rabbis, for the government, for the children. We prayed for boldness and wisdom, because opposition was growing fast. I was labeled a heretic and a traitor by former colleagues. One man publicly accused me of poisoning Jewish souls. But I refused to retaliate. I simply said, "I love my people too much to stay silent. If the truth offends, let it offend. But I will not deny what I've seen." One night, as I prayed in silence, I felt the Lord whisper something deep into my spirit. "Eliyahu, the dry bones are waking." And I understood. Ezekiel's prophecy. The valley of dry bones, our people, lifeless and scattered, were beginning to rise. Slowly. Quietly. But unmistakably. And the breath of the Spirit was entering them. I was just one man. One former rabbi with a broken past and a burning heart. But God doesn't need a crowd to start a movement. He just needs one surrendered life. And if He could use mine, He can use anyone. The name above every name. It's been years now since that moment, the moment I died, met Yeshua, and returned. And yet, it still feels like yesterday. His voice, His presence, the overwhelming love that crushed every fear, I carry it with me daily. I can never forget it. I won't. I live each day now with a clarity I never knew before. My mission is simple: make His name known. Not just as a historical figure or a misunderstood teacher, but as the risen, glorified Son of the living God. The one before whom I bowed. The one who raised me from death to life. I often travel to speak, quietly, carefully, but always boldly. To Jews and Gentiles alike. In small homes, synagogues turned safe havens, and gatherings held in secrecy. I speak of the Messiah who was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. I open the scriptures and show them that Yeshua is on every page. And more, eyes are opening. I've baptized Holocaust survivors who forgave their tormentors after encountering Christ. I've seen former atheists fall to their knees, weeping, clutching Bibles to their chests like buried treasure. I've even prayed with one former rabbi, an old friend, who whispered through tears, "I never thought it could be true. But he came to me too." Every time I share, I end with this warning and invitation. Do not wait until the afterlife to meet him. Because once you do, you will fall to your knees, either in terror or in awe. I beg you, choose on now. Choose life now. Choose Yeshua now. Not everyone listens. Some laugh. Some rage. Some walk away. But I know the power of the seed. Some fall on rocky soil, but others take root in fertile hearts. And God is the one who makes them grow. To my fellow Jews, I say this: I am still Jewish. In fact, I am more Jewish now than I ever was before. Because to know the Messiah is the fulfillment of everything we've ever hoped for. The Torah pointed to him. The prophets spoke of him. The Psalms cried out for him. He is not a foreign God. He is our God. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And to the world I say this: no matter your past, no matter your pain, no matter your religion or reputation, Jesus is real. He's not just a symbol of love. He is love. And he is coming again. I was once blind, but now I see. I was once a teacher of the law, but now I am a servant of grace. I was once dead. Now I live. And I live for one name, the only name by which we must be saved. Yeshua HaMashiach. Jesus the Messiah. The Lamb who was slain. The King who is coming. Amen.